Hello everyone, this will be a complete in-game guide which will start from first enter the game and will go straight to the final location that was at the end of the beta. If you were able to farm the 6th layer of Darknet without any problems, then most likely this guide is not for you. But if you didn't nailed it, then a full or partial viewing will help you. Keep in mind that all the information that will be here is relevant for the last day of the big beta, and we don't know how much the game will change in the next versions. But the basic mechanics most likely won't change, so the video will still be useful. I'll start with my Telegram channel. Keep mentioning it because the game is evolving very quickly, and during the beta phase, there were a lot of changes. For example, my previous dungeon guide is already somewhat outdated, so I'll cover it again here in a more thoughtful way. Creating videos like that takes a lot of time, and with how fast the game is moving, I simply can't keep up with making them. But I do manage to update and write text guides in my Telegram channel, so if you're looking for up-to-date information, that's the place to find it. Watching new people join the Telegram channel, I've noticed that many don't see the topic column. I totally get it, it might not be very visible or convenient on mobile, but the game is for PC after all. So besides the chat, we also have sections for news, updates, and a very important section for guides. Before asking questions in the chat, make sure to check the title of the guide section and explore the topics that interest you. There's a ton of useful info there, including links to guides made by others. You can always return to the main guide list through the pinned messages. In fact, every section has pinned messages. Make a habit of clicking on them whenever you enter a section or the chat. There might be something interesting waiting for you there. Now, please don't laugh, I'm making this video for a wide audience, and it's possible that some people don't fully understand how YouTube works. Right here on the progress bar, you'll see labeled sections, so it's easy to read what each part of the video is about. Down below in the description, there are also timestamps. So if you came here with a specific question in mind, you don't have to watch the whole video, you can skip straight to the part that interests you. Alright, let's get into the guide. I'll start with the basics, choosing a browser. Don't be surprised, but this game can have performance issues even on mid-range PCs. On powerful machines, everything might run smoothly, but on weaker setups, even if your system is only using 30% of its resources, the game can still lag. To improve performance, try different browsers. For example, on my setup, it lags a lot in Firefox. In Chrome, it glitches when I open the inventory. But in Edge, things run more or less fine. Keep in mind that we all have different operating system setups and hardware configurations, so your ideal browser might be different from mine. Just experiment and see what gives you the best FPS. Also, in the game settings, there's an option to toggle animations. Turning that off can reduce lag significantly, so give that a try too. Alright, it's time to jump into the game. The first thing you'll see is a choice between 3 skins. Just to be clear, these aren't different characters. They're simply skins that you can switch between anytime you like. Your actual character? You only get one per account. After completing a very short tutorial, you'll need to choose a class. Keep in mind that you won't be able to change your class later. Maybe that'll change in the future. Right now, they've added a feature to reset your skills, but it's only available through donations, and it's not cheap at all. So, you'll really need to think carefully about your class and all of its skills. The problem is, I can't give you a guide for any specific builds, because to say which class or even which skill is better, I'd have to test different setups with the same gear. But we can't reset our skills to compare them. We don't even have the option to create a second character to compare anything at all. As a compromise, here's what I can say. The game is designed around party content, but in the beta there were no parties, so classes like tank, healer, and buffer weren't really relevant. If they enable party features in the next phase, that could change everything. At the moment, we had 3 classes: Hacker, a crit-based damage dealer; Sentinel, a tank with some healing capabilities; and Technomancer, basically a mage. The Technomancer can be built into a nuker, healer, support, or debuffer. You can read about all skills and try creating your own build using the website I'll link in the description. When we talk purely about solo content, we're obviously looking at damage dealers. At the moment, there are 2 options: either a Technomancer using nukes like Photon Torpedo, or a hacker built around crits. Photon Torpedo turned out to be a totally broken build. If you use the right buff potion and get the right weapon that restores mana, you could farm the highest tier content way faster than anyone else, even with weaker gear, but because it ended up being so strong, there's no way it's not going to get nerfed. It'll all depend on when the next stage of the game is released, and we can't say for sure whether the build will stay the same as it was at the end of the beta. I didn't play this build myself, but I found a build on Twitter that shows roughly how it works. I'll drop a link in the description so you can check it out. The second option is the crit-based hacker, which is the one I played. I had a random skill on Q, leveled only 2. No idea if the other 2 skills are better or worse, but you'll definitely want to level that one up to 5. The thing is, in the final, 6th layer of the Darknet, I know I'm getting a bit ahead, but this is important. There's a random mod that reduces direct hit damage but boosts skill damage. With that mod, this skill becomes really useful. Without the mod, it's kinda meh, but the mod shows up pretty often. The main combo for this build is E plus R. E buffs your next attack to always crit, and R launches high damage orbs. So your goal is to gather enemies as close together as possible and hit them with R. Cooldown is 10 seconds. The cooldown passives work a bit weird. I'm not sure they actually reduce R's cooldown. But then again, there's nothing better to take. I'll also drop a link to the build in the description. After you've chosen your class and arrived in the city, a marker will appear on your minimap, showing you how to get to your first quest, NPC Morphine. She'll give you a quest to get acquainted with all the merchants. But who are we kidding? Most of you probably won't read the quest, you'll just rush through, click through all the dialogues, and later have no idea how the city works. That's why I've made this map just for you, and I'll give you a full tour of the city. The first NPC is the Cryptomancer. He sells weapons and armor for Battle Pass owners. The gear here is better than the regular stuff, but still, it's not worth upgrading. He also opens cartridges. During you open one, you can immediately see what drops from it, so you'll know if there's something useful for you. Also, during the beta, he used to exchange pixels for bytes. Next, we've got the consumables shop. Here you can find HP potions, buff potions that significantly boost your damage or movement speed, stat boosting potions. Technomancers absolutely like these, and the town teleport scroll. All of this is pretty cheap, so make sure you're buying and using it regularly. You can use these buffs either from the quick slots buttons 1 and 2 located to the right of your skill bar, or directly from your inventory. To do that, right-click the potion and select Use. And keep in mind, you can use 2 different potions that boost the same stat. For example, you can use a 10% and a 15% movement speed potion at the same time. You can also sell extra items at shops. To do this, open the trade menu, right-click an item in your inventory, and choose Sell. Try out different shops for different kinds of items. Next is the shop with common weapons and armor. Honestly, nothing too exciting here. This NPC is where we'll be upgrading our weapons. I'll go into detail about weapon upgrading a bit later. And here's the shop where we'll frequently be buying petty chrome for upgrading level 1 weapons. This shop also sells mining tools, pickaxes, fishing rods, various detectors, axes, etc. It's best to buy these right away and always keep them in your inventory, because you never know when or where you might need them. And he also sells regular armor. Now that we've covered the vendors, let's talk about how to do quests. There's just one catch. Quests can only be completed once, and I didn't record my first playthrough. I also can't create a second character, so I won't be able to show exactly where to go and what to click, but I can still help you out in another way. Take a look, there's quest map that shows all the main and side quests. You'll start somewhere around here. One of the first main quests is called Tears on Chain. In the menu, main quests are marked in purple. When you click on it, the menu shows how many steps are in that quest. You click on the first step, and the website will start guiding you. For example, first you'll need to go here, then there, and it explains exactly what needs to be done. A small note, you might run into quests that are part of a chain. For example, the popular quest United is one requires you to complete another quest first. You copy its name and look it up, but that quest also needs one before it, and so on. You keep going backward until you find the very first quest in the chain. Now, unfortunately, I won't be able to walk you through every single quest, but I can show you the top troublemaker quests, the ones that cause the most confusion. The most problematic one is tears on chain. First, you need to go here. Then it sends you to the tower. Head inside, and it tells you that to find the memory merchant, you need to go up to the second floor. Once there, the NPC will ask you to bring a black market RAM. That item is sold by the relic retailer. I've already shown you this NPC. Go to him, buy the RAM, and bring it back. Once you hand it in, you'll get a memory merchant key. To use it, go up to the third floor. Drag the key into one of your quick-use slots. I explained this earlier. Walk up to the door, press 1 or 2 to activate the key, and the door will open. Next tricky quest, Quantum Mixtape. You'll need to talk to the DJ, who sends you all the way to Rustrail Crossing. To get there, you'll have to go through several zones. Most players try to enter the first cave, but that one's a decoy. You need to enter this cave instead. Look for the NPC at the entrance. That's your landmark. Inside the cave, you'll find a cartridge encased in amber. After a dialogue with it, you'll be sent back to the city. Teleport or walk back and talk to the relic retailer again. He'll give you an item, then you return to the cave and use that item on the cartridge. Another common issue is when the main quest seems to stop. At that point, you need to return to the city and find a keyboard. That keyboard is actually graffiti on a wall near the city entrance. One more frequent question is about the Insert Coin quest. When you enter the corridor, there's an arcade machine at the end. After talking to it, you'll be allowed into a retro room. This is where the quest marker disappears and people don't know what to do. The answer? Just click on the game console in the room. In the final main quest, Byte City Blues, you'll enter an area full of arcade machines and talk to this dude. Then you're supposed to interact with one of the arcade machines. Most players, myself included, try to play the minigame, but you don't need to. Just click on the corner of the machine to trigger the dialogue icon. Now, a short intermission. Let me quickly tell you about 2 super useful websites. In addition to the build planner and the map with quests, there's a site where people post guides. And another one where some really good articles get published. One of them goes in depth about daily quests, and there's a massive guide on weapons. Which brings us to our next topic, weapons. In this video guide, we're going step by step. We've already picked our browser, created a character, and completed the main questline. Now it's time to talk about weapons. And I'd say this is the most important part of the game. Good weapons determine how well you can farm dungeons and clear the Darknet, the most essential farming zones in the game. At a basic level, weapons are divided into melee and ranged. And yeah, ranged is more convenient, but since it's harder to get, your focus shouldn't be on the perfect weapon, but on the damage increase you get from upgrading. Specifically, the damage increase from enhancement. Also, pay attention to how a weapon interacts with your build. For example, in my build, the shuriken doesn't trigger the chance-based crit buff. But even so, if that shuriken gets upgraded higher than my perfect weapon, it'll still outperform it. So, priority 1, damage gained from enhancement. Priority 2, synergy with your build. Everything else is secondary.
And remember, this is extremely important. Never risk to chance upgrading your strongest weapon if it's the only one you've got.
Even at 85% success chance, upgrades can fail and fail often. If it breaks, you'll probably quit the game. And even if the upgrade succeeds, you might not have the resources to restore the damage, leaving you stuck with no way to farm. I know I'm delaying the actual upgrade demo, but I want you to fully understand, the most important part of upgrading is choosing the right weapon to upgrade. Upgrading takes rare resources, and if you upgrade a useless weapon, sure, you can throw it away, but you won't get those resources back. There are many different base damage values in the game, but the strongest weapon isn't the one with the highest starting number, it's the one that gains the most damage per upgrade. All weapons fall into 2 categories, ones that gain 3, and ones that gain 6 per level at tier 0. Plus 6 is considered double damage. Most cartridges can drop either a X1 or X2 version of the same weapon. This isn't shown anywhere, but you can use the weapon tables from the guide websites to check. In those tables, the weapons that gain 6 per upgrade are clearly highlighted. Even a weapon with 22 base damage, once upgraded to Tier 2, can rival a weapon that started at 240, but gain 3 per upgrade. And at Tier 3, the 22 base weapon beats it. You don't need to memorize the whole table, just remember, a +6 weapon at Tier 0 will always outperform a +3 weapon, no matter how high its base damage looks. That said, if you do happen to get a 240 base weapon early on, don't upgrade it with risk, just bring it to level 10 and use it to farm for a proper +6 base weapon, which you'll then tier up. So, how does upgrading actually work? You equip the weapon and go to the NPC. You can even switch weapons mid-dialogue. The upgrade menu will refresh in real time. You'll see its level and the required resources. Quick reminder, the first petty chrome used for early upgrades is sold by the nearby vendor. Now, click upgrade 9 times to safely reach level 10. For example, we start with a weapon that has 82 base damage. This base is one of the easiest to farm, with a 6 increase per level. 9 upgrades gives us +50 for damage, so 82 plus 54 equals 136 total damage. Now comes the risky part. With an alleged 85% chance it's actually lower, I've broken 3 weapons in a row. The weapon will convert from +6 to +18 per level and become Tier 1. But after that, your damage drops back to the original 82, and you need more resources to upgrade, but you'll get even bigger damage gains per level. You repeat the process, level to 10 again, and then try to push to the next tier. On screen, you'll see each step of the upgrade path for an 82 base weapon. Keep in mind, resource costs shown are per click, so multiply by 9 to reach level 10. By Tier 2, you'll probably start running short on Chromem, which is why I warned you earlier. Even with a successful upgrade, you can end up with 0 damage and no way to farm. I'll cover resources a bit later. To push a weapon to the next tier, you'll need reforged scrolls. These drop most reliably from secret rooms, ideally in Dungeon 2. Sometimes you'll get them from daily chests too. More on dungeons later. Daily chest guide is linked in the description. Now for weapon selection. First priority, damage. Second, additional effects. A high damage weapon with no bonuses is much better than a low damage one with 3 effects. As for the effects, crit power is great for hackers. Pixel damage works great for technomancers. Extra damage effects won't give the exact number shown, but they're always a nice bonus. Health gives max HP, very useful for layer 6 of Darknet. The most useless one right now is heal, since it doesn't work with HP potions, and party are disabled. Rarity is the least important stat. All it means is how many effects can appear on the weapon, but it doesn't mean you'll actually get them, so rarity least useful. Where to get weapons? Besides the one-time boxes you get from quests, there are 3 ways to get them. First, paid cartridges. These contain melee or ranged weapons with 110 or 220 base damage. 110 is trash. Some people in our Telegram chat pulled 220 from the very first box. I opened 6 and only got 110. Second, dungeon bosses. These drop only melee weapons with 41 or 82 base damage. 41 also trash. No difference between first and second dungeon boss boxes, but second also gives better extra farm. Rough drop rate, about 1080 to damage weapons per 100 cartridges. Third, the Darknet. 3 types of cartridges for sale there. Cheap one, drops 50 or 100 base. Mid-tier, drops 110 or 220. Expensive, drops 240 or 480. But remember, if you get 50, 110, or 240, it's trash. These cartridges are expensive, and since the beta got wiped, I didn't buy any, so I can't confirm exact drop tables. In any case, to even farm Darknet, you need at least Tier 2 weapon, ideally Tier 3. So the most realistic and reliable way to get decent weapons is to farm dungeon bosses. There are only 2 dungeons in total. To enter them, you need tickets. Right now, you can get them from daily quests, a room in the tower, and from a cartridge that drops from the dungeon boss. I won't go into detail about the daily quests. There are 2 great websites with excellent guides, and the links are in the description. In the room straight ahead on the 3rd floor of the tower, a ticket sometimes spawns. You can go there and check it out. The ticket from the boss's cartridge has a 50% drop chance. It's important to know that there is a donation unlimited access pass for 24 hours. If you're struggling with your weapon, you can buy this pass and farm for around 14 hours. That way, it's much cheaper than buying paid cartridges, although it will take more of your time. But it gives you flexibility. For example, you can skip all the mobs and focus only on farming the boss for weapons. Or you can farm just the secret rooms for reforged scrolls, or farming missing resources. So depending on your situation, you can mix and match your objectives. For instance, spend the first 5 hours farming the boss for weapons, then open the cartridges, and once you find a better weapon, use it to kill mobs for resources. For farming reforged scrolls, you can run into the secret rooms and then return to the start via the main game menu, exit, and enter again. But don't forget that weapons can break during upgrades, so make sure to stock up extra. So, once you've got enough tickets, you can start farming the first dungeon. From mobs here, you get lesser chromium. And from crystals, you farm astrolites. There are also so-called secret rooms in the dungeons. There are 3 in total, 1 for each class. The hacker opens the door, the sentinel goes through lasers, the technomancer heals an NPC, and he throws a box. You get special loot for doing this. In the first dungeon, it's not that valuable, just 1 reforged scroll. In the second dungeon, the loot is much better. And here's some trick. Even if you're not a sentinel, you can still take the sentinel's box. You can either jump over the laser, which I can manage in the first dungeon, but almost never in the second, or can't remember which quest gives it. But you'll get it eventually. You can use a potion that grants 5 seconds of invincibility and walk through the laser with no issues. The boss in the first dungeon is slow and clunky, sometimes summons allies. Early on, the farm can take a while, but you can kill him with almost any weapon. He drops lesser chromium and a weapon cartridge with a 50% ticket. In the second dungeon, the crystals drop lesser, common chromium, and sunstone. The mobs are much tankier here, and without decent weapon, they take a long time to kill. If your goal is to farm rare chromium purple, you need to kill mobs that are level 35 plus. Mobs below that level don't drop rare chromium. Entering the secret rooms in the second dungeon is absolutely worth it. Each room gives you 10 common chromium, so if you can enter 2 rooms, that's 20 per run. On top of that, you get multiple reforged scrolls and a buff that increases your stats by 10. You can use this buff on the dungeon boss or save it for the Darknet boss. If you get 2 per run, you can use one here and save the other for Darknet. The boss in the second dungeon is tankier and uses an AoE ability. To avoid it, even melee weapons can be used while keeping a slight distance. No need to be right up close, but even if you do get hit, it won't one-shot you. Just remember the guide about HP potions, stock up on those and you'll be fine. He drops a cartridge similar to the first dungeons and occasionally rare chromium. Let's get back to our progression. We left off after completing the main quest. Now start doing all the available quests. Be sure to complete daily quests to collect as many dungeon tickets as possible. When entering the first dungeon before level 25, it makes sense to fully clear it to gain a few extra levels. Mobs here give more XP than the overworld, but go in either to complete the Hunter Must Hunt quest, to try your luck farming weapons, or if you've run out of simple regular quests. It's also recommended to complete the quest chain that starts with Local Expert from the Druid and ends with United as One. While doing quests, always enable tracking for the one you're currently working on. This will highlight important locations on the minimap. Aside from that chain, if any quests are too hard or confusing, just skip them and move on to others. If you lose a quest item, you can abandon and retake the quest. Up to level 25, your progression will mostly come from quests and mob farming in the first dungeon. Starting at level 25, head to the final area, Smuggler's Run, and start doing quests like Golden Age. These quests often give you an entire level just for running through the area. That way, you can reach level 30 pretty quickly. Now, I'll show you a resource table that will help both with questing and weapon upgrading. For example, on the left, you'll see rare items like discs and microchips. It's really helpful to know where they drop from. At this stage, lesser chromium is best farmed by killing the boss and mobs in the first dungeon. Common chromium drops best from the so-called secret rooms in the second dungeon, and you'll also pick up reforged scrolls there. Additionally, these chromiums sometimes appear in the city, in the room next to the Technomancer. Rare chromium is used for weapons with over 406 damage, so there's no need to farm them right away. You can get them from level 35 plus mobs in the second dungeon or in the Darknet. Once you start farming the Darknet, you'll pretty much stop thinking about the dungeons. If you've hit level 30, completed your daily quests for the tickets, and got unlucky with the weapon drops, consider buying a 24-hour dungeon pass with real money to farm bosses intensively. But set aside a full day for this so you can get the maximum amount of weapons for upgrading, since some amount will break during the process. By this point, you should be level 30 with roughly tier 2-3 weapons. That's the perfect time to head into the Darknet. After entering the Darknet, you'll find yourself on a bridge with 6 gates. These are the layers. Essentially, this layout represents the entire Darknet. The idea is that you enter one of the layers, where you'll encounter rooms full of mobs. These mobs drop unstable cores, which appear as items in your inventory. Once a room is cleared, you level up and get to choose a mod. Most of these mods are basically useless and only apply to the current run, so you can skip opening the mod selection menu altogether if you want. You'll also can move into the next room. About halfway through a layer, you'll encounter a buff vendor. These buffs give around 3% bonus damage, but they cost actual Darknet points, so I don't recommend buying them. Here's an example. A single buff costs 320 points, which is almost half of what you earn in the first layer. Plus, the buffs only apply to one room. At the end of a layer, you'll face a random boss. There are 6 possible ones. After killing the boss, you're able to return to the bridge. During this return, the unstable cores in your inventory disappear and are converted into Darknet currency. And don't forget to buff yourself before the boss fight. Entry into the first layer is free, and you'll level up 6 times there, 1 per room, plus the boss. You'll earn around 800 points from the first layer. All other layers require paid access. On your screen, you'll see how many points you get from each gate, the cost to enter them, and how many rooms each layer contains. You can spend the earned points at the Sensei NPC on the bridge. There are things like pixel and chromium cartridges, weapon and armor cartridges. There's on your screen. You can see what drops from each type of cartridge. Ready-made armor parts. To farm layers 5 and 6, you'll need a basic armor set. It costs 24,000 points for the chest piece, 24,000 for the chip, 18,000 for the module. Total 66,000 points, and you'll also need at least tier 3 weapon, preferably tier 4. You can either get the armor from a donation-based cartridge or grind it from the first layer. When it comes to points per minute factoring in entry costs, Layer 2 is equal to or even worse than Layer 1. Buy armor tailored to your class. After that, you can farm using either single-use keys for specific layers or a 24-hour donation key. If you're buying single-use passes, Layer 5 is the most efficient to farm. Keep in mind 2 key things. If you get disconnected, the key is lost. A Layer 5 key costs half of a Layer 6 key. Layer 6 can include mods that make it practically impossible to complete. The worst one is a root effect that immobilizes you for 2 seconds after every mob kill. If you're using a donation key, you can just restart the run. With a single-use pass, that's not an option. Also, an interesting mechanic in the Darknet, sometimes you'll get hit with a severe slow effect that makes it impossible to move. If it's not too bad, speed buffs might help. If it's really bad, try using jump spacebar to move a bit. The effect will wear off in the next room. You can even use this mechanic against bosses if you can stack slows on them. I'll finish my guide with a short overview of the arcade machines, and while that overview is running, let me say this. We don't know when the next stage of the game will launch. We don't know how much the in-game world will expand or change, but I believe that those who've watched this guide understand how the game works and will be ready to dive in hard when the next episode begins.